Hello everyone. Welcome to this lecture on hate speech and censorship. This lecture is a part of your paper on news and society. Freedom of expression has been guaranteed under the Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, and it allows a person to attain self-fulfillment and strengthen the capacity to enjoy life to its fullest. This right gives strength to the citizen to express their views on various issues, which leads to the plurality of opinion and enriched democracy. Democracy prospers through debates and dissenting voices, provided they do not cross the boundaries of decency in civil discourse. In a country like India, with diverse castes, creeds, religions, and languages, to ensure that the freedom of expression is not exercised to the detriment of any section poses a great challenge before us. Repeated exercise of hate speech against other religions, castes, political groups, the state and its ideology provided the backdrop for considering remedies against hate speech. Provisions were made in the common law to define hate speech and then the legal remedies against such actions. At the end of this lecture, you shall have an adequate understanding of the concept of hate speech and its defining features, various types of hate speech, and threats of hate speech and its legal remedies in India. The concept of hate speech. Hate speech is an expression which is likely to cause distress or offend other individuals on the basis of their association with a particular group or incite hostility towards them. The term hate speech has been used invariably to mean expression which is abusive, insulting, intimidating, harassing, or which incites violence, hatred, or discrimination against group identified by characteristics such as race, religion, place of birth, residence, region, language, caste or community, sexual orientation or personal convictions. Hate speech has the potential to provoke individuals or groups to commit an action of terrorism, genocide, ethnic cleansing, etc. To qualify as hate speech, the idea need not always incite violence in the society. Incitement to discrimination is also a significant factor. The Councils of Europe's Committee of Ministers to Member States on Hate Speech has defined hate speech as: the term hate speech shall be understood as covering all forms of expression which spread incitement, promote or justify racial hatred, xenophobia, anti-Semitism, or other forms of hatred based on intolerance, including intolerance expressed by aggressive nationalism and ethnocentrism, discrimination and hostility against minorities, migrants, and people of immigrant origin. According to the philosopher Jemmy Waldron, where speech injures dignity, it will do more harm than simply offend its target. It would undermine the implicit assurance that citizens of a democracy, particularly minorities or vulnerable groups, are placed on the same footing as the majority. Hate speech compromises the dignity of those under attack, and its proliferation makes difficult life for the victims. Discomfort caused by hate speech attacks cannot be healed easily. Free speech versus hate speech. In a pluralistic democracy, conflicting views are inevitable and are essential for the vibrant society. But public discourse cannot be allowed to become a tool to promote speech inimical to public order. The right to free speech cannot be used as a tool to marginalize the vulnerable groups. The potential dangers of hate speech have engaged the attention of the lawmakers, starting from the Constituent Assembly, to consider the limitations on this hard-earned right. One of the prominent issues pertaining to limitations on the freedom of speech and expression is: should the right cover the speech that is likely to promote class hatred? The Indian Constitution acknowledges that liberty cannot be absolute and provides for limits on the right to free speech, which are articulated in the Clause 2 of Article 19. Speaking on a debate in the Constituent Assembly, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar has pointed, "Our fundamental rights are not absolute. Even in America, the right to freedom of speech and expression is often used as springboard to fire missiles of hate speech against individuals, groups, and the state." Though the defining features of hate speech has been codified, its justification often faces roadblocks. This complexity is misused by disgruntled groups to escape the punitive clutches of law. Further, there are many contradictions as dissimilar points of view in the legal jurisprudence which lingers legal adjudications in cases of hate speech. The following discussions throw light on the philosophical boundaries on hate speech. In the harm principle, J.S. Mill claims that the only purpose of which power can be rightfully exercised over any member of civilized community against his will is to prevent harm to others. Here, harm means to invade the right of a person. Therefore, interference is justified only when speech causes a direct and clear violation of rights. In the acts involving libel, blackmail, barefaced lies through advertising about products, it is possible to show that the harm can be caused and that rights can be violated to justify interference. Joel Feinberg's offense principle reads, "It is always a good reason in support of a proposed criminal prohibition that it would probably be an effective way of preventing serious offense to persons other than the actor, and that it would probably a necessary means to that end." The principle asserts, in effect, that the prevention of offensive conduct is properly the state's business. The issues which are important in deciding whether a speech act can be interfered with on the ground of offense are the extent, duration, and social value of the speech, the ease with which it can be avoided, the motives of the speaker, the number of people offended, the intensity of the offense, and the general interest of the community. A more inclusive approach is to justify state interference if the speech act is inconsistent with the underlying values of liberal democracy, to brand some citizens as inferior on the grounds of race, religion, gender, or sexual orientation. According to Stanley Fish, the context defines the limits of free speech. The most important issue in deciding interference is the relative importance to be assigned on free speech and its competing values of privacy, security, equality, or the prevention of harm. If in the context of the speech, the contents carry more value from the point of view of the social interests compared to the democratic qualities, interference may be justified. In judging hate speech, one has to find a workable compromise that gives due weight to these values. It has to be answered whether it is better to place a higher value on speech than on these values. For example, the limits on free speech will be more in the military than in a university campus, where one of the main values is the expression of ideas. Waldron and Bonning argue that prohibition is the acceptable when speech is threatening. Further, the extension of harm principle from the physical to the mental realm would broaden the scope for prohibiting hate speech and pornography. If hate speech and pornography curtail the scope of capacities in certain sections of the community, then it makes a case for prohibition. Threat of sanction against free speech takes two major forms. The first and the most serious is legal punishment by the state. The second, threat of the sanctions come from social disapproval, fear of ridicule and moral outrage of others. For example, one could expect to be publicly condemned for a racist comment. Through censorship, a government can limit the same form of free expression by banning books, plays, films, etc. International law on hate speech. Article 20, Clause 2 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights 1966 prohibits advocacy of national, racial or religious hatred that constitute incitement to discrimination, hostility or violence. Article 4 and 6 of the International Covenant on Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination 1966 prohibits dissemination of ideas based on racial superiority or hatred, incitement to racial discrimination, as well as all acts of violence or incitement to such acts against any race or group of persons of other color or ethnic origin, and mandates the signatory states to provide effective remedies and protection against such actions. Expressing concern over the rising malice of hate speech in the age of internet, the Human Rights Council's report of the Special Rapporteur on the promotion and protection of the right of freedom of opinion and expression on content, regulation of the internet expressed that the freedom of expression can be restricted to the following grounds: child pornography, hate speech, defamation, direct and public incitement to commit genocide, advocacy of national, racial or religious hatred that constitutes incitement to discrimination, hostility or violence. The Public Order Act 1986 in UK states that a person is guilty of offence if he displays any writing, sign or other visible representations which is threatening, abusive or insulting within the hearing or sight of a person likely to be caused harassment, alarm or distress. In Australia, Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act of 1975 states that it is unlawful for a person to do an act otherwise than in private if the act is reasonably likely in all circumstances to offend, insult, humiliate or intimidate another person or group of people, and if the act is done because of race, color or national or ethnic origin. Position of law on hate speech in India. In India, the following laws pertaining to the hate speech are in force. The Indian Penal Code of 1860, Section 124A of IPC penalizes sedition. Section 153 penalizes promotion of enmity between groups on the grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, etc., and doing acts prejudicial to maintenance of harmony. The section reads, whoever A. by words, either spoken words or written, or by signs or by visible representation or otherwise, promotes or attempts to promote on the grounds of religion, race, place of birth, residence, language, caste or community, or any other ground whatsoever disharmony or feelings of enmity, hatred, or ill will between different religious, racial, language, or regional groups or castes or community. B. Commits any act which is prejudicial to the maintenance of harmony between different religious, racial, language, or regional groups or castes or communities, and which disturbs or is likely to disturb the public tranquility, shall be punished with imprisonment, which may extend to 3 years, or a fine, or both. Section 153B penalizes imputations, assertions prejudicial to national integration. Section 295 penalizes deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feelings of any class by insulting its religion or religious beliefs. Section 298 penalizes uttering words, etc., with deliberate intent to wound the religious feelings of any person. Section 505 1 and 2 provides for penalties against publication or circulation of any statement, rumor, or report causing public mischief and enmity, hatred, or ill between classes. The Representation of People's Act of 1951. Section 8 disqualifies persons if convicted for indulging in acts of misuse of freedom of speech. Section 123 3A and Section 125 prohibits promotion of enmity on the grounds of religion, race, caste, community, or language in connection with elections. The Protection of Civil Rights Acts of 1955. Under Section 7, incitement to and the encouragement of untouchability through words either spoken or written, or by signs or by visible representation of otherwise, constitute punishable offence. The Religious Institutions Prevention of Misuse Act of 1988. Section 3G prohibits the misuse of religious institutions for promoting or attempting to promote disharmony, feelings of enmity, hatred, ill will between different religious, racial, language, or regional groups or castes or communities. The Cable Television Network Regulation Act of 1995. Section 5 and 6 prohibits the transmission of a program in contravention to the prescribed program code or advertisement code. The Cinematograph Act of 1952. The Cinematograph Act of 1952, Section 4, 5B and 7 prohibit and regulate the screening of a film, the contents of which fall within the reasonable restriction provided under 19(2) of the Constitution. Code of Criminal Procedure. Section 95 empowers the state to forfeit publications published in contravention of the law. Section 107 empowers the concerned executive magistrate to prevent a person committing a breach of peace or disturb the public tranquility. Section 144 empowers the district magistrate to issue orders in urgent cases of nuisance and apprehend danger. Test of hate speech. As already mentioned earlier, the hate speech clauses discussed above are open to interpretation. The alleged sorting of slogans in the JNU campus on Feb 9, 2016, for example, has created a lot of controversy, virtually dividing the country vertically, which speaks a lot about the scope of misinterpretation. There are plenty of examples of religious people delivering speech against other religions. In politics, such speech is very difficult to avoid. So, how to identify which is hate speech and which is not? Three tests have been commonly applied to ascertain the legitimacy of interference with the freedom of expression pertaining to hate speech. These are given by Weber in 2016. The interference must be prescribed by law in force. The interference must be proportionate to the legitimate aim pursued. The interference must be necessary in a democratic society. Identifying the criteria of hate speech. The Supreme Court in the Shreya Singhal versus the Union of India has held the speech can only be limited on the grounds of exception mentioned in the Article 19, Clause 2, which reaches the threshold of incitement. All other forms of speech, even if offensive or unpopular, have to be protected under the Article 19(1)(a). On the basis of decisions of the state jurisdictions, the Law Commission of India has identified the following parameters to test hate speech. Extremity of speech. In order to qualify as hate speech, the speech must be offensive and project extreme form of emotion. Incitement. Incitement to violence and incitement to discrimination qualify as test of hate speech. Status of the author of the speech. The Supreme Court recognized the negative impact of hate speech by elected representative, political and religious leaders. Status of the victim of the speech. Public figures like politicians must display greater degree of tolerance compared to the private individual. Potentiality of the speech. The potential impact of the speech must be considered in deterring the interference in free speech. Context of speech. The context in which the speech was made is essential in determining its permissibility. As has been already discussed above, we can only attempt to regulate hate speech by restricting the circulation of certain speech content to prevent harm, either physical or mental, defined under the law as censorship. Hate speech and social media. The advent of social has hugely expanded the scope of self-expression and empowered the people against the control of media owners and state. The media democratization has made freedom of expression meaningfully available to all sections of the society, irrespective of socio-economic and political status. But, regrettably, this freedom is also availed for spreading hate speech. The expanding social media platforms are jam-packed with contents which otherwise constitute hate speech. The ubiquitous miniaturized multitasking digital devices are used to post contents against other religious, castes, enemy states, and political opponents. Posting of comments against the state is also not very difficult to find. Attempts are made regularly to defame political opponents by publishing abusive texts and manipulated pictures. Misuse of social media for propagating is evident in the picture involving Indian Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi. The original picture on the left was manipulated with the help of technology to create a manipulated picture on the right, which conveys a completely different message. Section 66A of Information Technology Amendment Act of 2008 made the sending of offensive messages through communication services, etc. as punishable. The Supreme Court declared the section as unconstitutional and struck it down. The court said, the section has to be erased from the law books as it has gone much beyond the reasonable restrictions put by the Constitution on freedom of speech. Hate speech and censorship. Censorship is the control of what people may say or hear, write or read, or see or do, and suppression of material considered objectionable, harmful, sensitive, or inconvenient to the government or the citizen groups. According to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, censorship is the suppression of speech, public communication, or other information that may be considered objectionable, harmful, sensitive, politically incorrect as determined by the state, media outlets, authorities, or other groups and institutions. The Merriam-Webster's Collegiate Dictionary defines censors as to be a person who is authorized to read publications or correspondence or to watch theatrical performances and suppress in whole or in part anything considered as obscene or politically unacceptable. Censorship is imposed on the circulation of contents through various modes such as speech, books, music, films, and other arts such as the press, radio, television, and internet for a variety of reasons. In India, the grounds for censorship are provided under Article 19, Clause 2 of the Indian Constitution. Forms of censorship. There are three broad forms of censorship: preventive censorship, punitive censorship, and taboo. First, preventive censorship. Preventive censorship is practiced in three commonly accepted forms: prior restraint by the government, sometimes known as pre-censorship, in which the matter to be circulated is inspected, and if found objectionable, its circulation among the people is restricted by the government under the provision of law and force. Its purpose is to preempt any damage which may be caused by the circulation of the said content. For example, if the contents of the books are found to be objectionable from the standpoint of the government, political parties, religious or ethnic groups, etc., its entry and circulation are banned. Licensing. It is a precautionary measure by the government through its agencies to enforce a certain preventive condition so as to discourage or restrict the circulation of certain kinds of media content. For example, licensing of cinema is done to prevent the circulation of certain films. Last, self-censorship. It is a voluntary effort by the producers of the media content or artists to avoid the circulation of the contents which they think might be objectionable. Punitive censorship. Punitive censorship is exercised, initiated, usually by the government or its agents, after the expression in public of certain type of contents which are objectionable. Police action against certain speech acts are example of punitive censorship. Taboos. Taboos are a primitive way of restricting circulation of certain types of content which is not acceptable to the dominant group in the society. Even if it is not defined in the law, the objection of certain powerful groups forms the basis of the restriction. In India, exhibition of certain films were restricted in certain geographic territories due to the objection of religious groups. Non-compliance to the whims of the dominant groups often lead to criminal violence against the circulation. Censorship as a term in English goes back to the office of censor established in ancient Rome. The censor was one of the two magistrates of early Rome who acted as the census authority and inspectors of morale who regulated the morals of the citizens. Traditionally, censorship was associated with the ideas about state oppression, intolerant governments, or other powerful institutions controlling the minds of the powerless citizens and societies dominated in classes. It referred to the strategies to limit the freedom of speech or to undermine artistic expression. It was even seen as a part of a carefully orchestrated strategy of the controlling or even silencing public debate in the society. With the universal recognition of human rights and the right to communicate as a vital component, the exercise of censorship in modern times is seen as violating the sanctity of constitutionally granted freedom of speech and expression in liberal democracies. From the perspective of the culturist notion, censorship is an indicator of what a particular hegemonic group in the society can tolerate at a particular moment. The wider social and cultural ideologies determining hegemonic groups' activities present the framework for negotiating between industries, producers, censors, and their respective discourses to achieve some form of consensus on the acceptability of certain images, scenes, or films. Legal standing of censorship in India. These restrictions provided in Article 19, Clause 2 of the Indian Constitution include censorship. The principle of censorship set out in Section 5B of the Cinematography Amendment Act of 1959 states, "A film shall not be certified for public exhibition if, in the opinion of the authority competent to grant the certificate to the film, or any part of it is against the interests of the security of the state, public order, decency, morality, or involves defamation or contempt of court, or is likely to incite the commission of an offence." In a celebrated Supreme Court judgment in 1970 in the case brought before by K.A. Abbas regarding his film A Tale of Four Cities, declared that censorship falls under the constitutional guarantee of freedom of speech and expression, and that while pre-censorship of films does not contravene those guarantees per se, it is still a justifiable issue and can be decided by the government official. Supreme Court has indicated that censorship in India and pre-censorship is not different in quality, has full justification in the field of exhibition of cinema films, and censorship imposed on the making and exhibition of the film is an interest of the society. If the regulations venture into something which goes beyond the legitimate opening to restrictions, they can be questioned on the grounds of legitimate power is being abused. Acclaimed film critic and spiritual champion of freedom of speech and expression, Noel Birch has claimed that, "I doubt if anybody will advocate freedom of interference of the state machinery to be extended to the commercial exploitation of powerful medium of expression and entertainment like cinema." Freedom of expression cannot and should not be interpreted as license for the cine magnates to make money by pandering to and thereby propagating shoddy and vulgar taste. Therefore, at the end of this lecture, I hope that it's clear that the right to freedom of speech and expression guaranteed under the Indian Constitution is often used as a shield to express messages to harm people. Such expression spread hatred or discrimination against groups identified by race, religion, place of birth, region, language, caste or community, sexual orientation or personal convictions, etc. Though practice of hate speech is not new, the advent of new media has made it more visible. There are ample cases of misuse of right to freedom of expression to ventilate views inimical to the sections of the society or state. Some observation of the higher judiciary on what constitutes as hate speech has to be clarified on to a greater extent the concept of hate speech. But in the absence of a comprehensive law, the issue is open to interpretation and may lead to conflict. For more details, please look into the e-text of this lecture. Thank you.